Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I want to come up here and make this really quick video because I wanted to talk about something that's very important and why I feel like it's important for us to know our own language and understand our own language. So I go in detail about this in my book, and I talk about how the translation from Hebrew into English doesn't always correctly transfer over. Sometimes it's just, maybe a lack of the English word, or maybe it's possibly because it's just maybe intentionally mistranslated. But this is a good example that I wanted to show here. So I'm reading in Genesis chapter 28, and I'm at let's go with 16. And this is where Jacob had the dream of the ladder coming down from heaven into earth and angels descending back and forth. And it says here that he awoke and said, and he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other than the house of Allah, or Elohim for some, and this is the gate of heaven. And I want to say that word dreadful, it doesn't make sense to me, because why would he say this place is dreadful, right? Why would he say terrible or just a bad thing? But then he goes on in verse 18, it says, and Jacob arose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon it. And he called the name of that place Beth-el, or Bayath Alawah. But the name of that city was called Luz at first. So he said, this is a terrible or, dreadful, horrible place. The place where the Most High dwells. Would that sound like something that would come out of Jacob's mouth? But then after he says this is a horrible place, he turns around and blesses it and says, this is the house of the Most High. Now, let me show you what that word really should be translated as, and translated in English as. Okay, so here I am at the verse, Genesis 28, verse 17, and I'm going to look up the word dreadful here. It says he was afraid, meaning he was afraid, like terrified or scared. And he said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of the Most High, and this is the gate of heaven. So when you look up that word, the interlinear. Okay, so here's afraid, it's yare or yara. It goes into how dreadful, it's the same word. Now, this word says to fear, revere, be afraid, to fear, to stand in awe of. And actually, if you look at the other way, it could have been more so in awe of the place versus afraid of it. But it also says to reverence or honor or respect. And it says to be dreadful as well, but it has a few different meanings. To make afraid or to terrify. So when you read this verse, he was afraid, or he could have been in awe. He could have been, terrified because, people see the face of the Most High, or not the face of the Most High, but they encounter his presence for the first time. It can be a humbling thing. But then he says, how dreadful is this place? Why would he say that it's a dreadful, horrible, terrible place? But then turn around, and in verse 18 and 19, bless it, build a pillar, which is in remnants, or in similar to like building an altar for worship. Pour oil on top of it, and says, he calls that place Beth-el, or Bayath Alawah. Bayath Allah, or El, as some people will say, meaning the house of God, or the house of the Most High. So if he was afraid of it, if he thought it was a terrible place, why would he bless it and call it the house of the Most High? So this is what I mean when I say you have to understand the correct meaning of the word. You have to understand your own language, because you can't rely on English or people translating from English to tell you what these words are saying, what this word is saying, because we have one word that can have several different meanings. Whereas, in English, you can have one meaning, but several different words. As I was saying in one of my videos, or as I was saying to somebody, I was telling, when I was teaching English in Madagascar, the same word for like, favorite, and love was translated as one word in Malagasy, or Malagash. So the thing is that like, favorite, and love in English, they all pretty much mean the same, but they have slightly different contexts if we, for those of us who speak English. But in the Hebrew, the word yara, or yare, is one word, but it has several different meanings that it can be used to apply to different situations. So it doesn't make sense that they would translate this and say that Jacob said, oh my goodness, what a horrible, terrible place to be, but then turn around and bless it and said this is the house of the Most High. But if you also look up this word, it's used as reverence 3 times in the scripture, and it gives you times that it was used. And the Most High said, keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. Keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. Psalms 89 says, Yah is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, or the congregation of the Israelites, the church, quote unquote, and to be had in reverence of all of them that are about him. So when you look at that meaning, the same word is used in these scriptures. Do you think the Most High would say, you shall keep my Sabbaths and dreadful my sanctuary? Be my terrible, my sanctuary? No, you shall keep my Sabbaths, and you shall honor, you shall revere, you shall respect my sanctuary. Yah is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, the assembly of the Israelites, and to be had in dreadful, terrible fear of them, like being afraid and scared, terrifying, scary. No, and to be had in honor, respect, and reverence of all of them that are about him. So when you read the context of the situation, the sentence, and you go back and you read the rest of what he did after he said this is a so-called dreadful place, you can see that word dreadful, the translation for dreadful, is not correct. What really should be there is this is a reverence, honorable, respectful place. He was in awe. He held it in awe. It was feared in a godly way, not feared as in afraid of like the boogeyman, but fear in the sense of respecting, not wanting to do anything crazy there, respecting the fact that this is an honorable, holy place, holy ground, basically, HaQuadash, or Quadash, or, holy. So he went on and said that this is a holy place. Therefore, because it's holy, he blessed it and called it the house of the Most High. So I just want to make that really quick video to show you that it's important for us to learn our own language and to not rely on the English to translate what our people were really saying and thinking and feeling in that time frame when they wrote whatever it was that they wrote, or whenever, whatever they was doing, how whatever was written about them, how they felt in that moment is how we need to be, like, what we need to know about, we need to be able to understand our own language so we can have the full context, so we can understand how they were thinking when they wrote it, or what they were feeling and thinking when it was written about them, is what I'm trying to say. So I hope that gives you some understanding, and I hope you have a blessed, peaceful Shabbat.